Claire Higney, Simon McLean.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming along to the hub today. Thanks very, very much, because this will be a lot of interest to the boys over here, because walking football is the thing that we organise here, that we do. We do it through Glasgow Life, we do it through Pollock, and we've got associations with all the teams in Scotland. And they're always getting injured and moaning about aches and pains. Probably, I would guess, 80% of the guys on the park at any one time are actually injured. Yeah. But they're hobbling about, crawling about sometimes, and they're all holding their backs and moaning, and you get the picture. Yeah. And the ages vary, really from 50 up to, we've got Alec, who's 80 odd. Alec injured his shoulder a couple of weeks ago. He got knocked over and broke or chipped a wee bone in his collarbone. So we've got every variety of injury. And John Campbell put me in touch with you. You're probably your favourite client.
Yes.
Yes, so you've got to say that, I suppose. Best client, maybe. Best That's client, more like it, yeah. Because he's never out your surgery. And he recommended you to me to have a chat about all these things, all these concerns that people have. Because what we don't want is guys going away squandering money and time when there's maybe simpler things they could be doing.
Yes.
To look after themselves.
Extremely.
Yeah. So, what's your background? You've got your own business, your own clinic?
I've got my own clinic in Specialise where I used it where I grew up. I've had it now for coming up in 12 years.
Right.
John Campbell, he's been one of my clients for around 10 years.
Okay.
His full family come, so that's how John knows me. So I have just myself, and I have like people coming in and out the clinic working, and I've got my receptionist Emma, so she deals with my diary and things. So yeah, it's busy. It's open 6 days.
What's it called, Claire?
Sports Injury Clinic.
Okay. So specifically sports injuries that you specialise in?
Yes. So instant pain.
Ideal. I've got the right person there.
Yes, definitely.
Instant pain.
Yeah. And previous to that, I worked in football. Football and boxing was my background.
Right.
So when I first qualified, I done some free stuff, because you had to do a lot of free stuff
to get the experience.
Yeah. So that was started off with Collagen Rangers.
Right.
And that was through my brother-in-law's dad, who was doing and brother, they'd done a lot of the financial side and the sponsoring of it.
Right.
So they asked me to come and help out when I was doing my training.
On match days and training and things like that?
Training, yeah, because it was all about warm-up and cool-down and stuff like that. And a lot of them didn't do it. Mm-hmm. A lot of clubs forget that it's really, really important. And I think you'll obviously get to that. Then I moved from Collagen Rangers to Clyde.
Okay.
I dealt with a lot of...
You've got a few Clyde supporters among our group. Yeah. Probably the Clyde supporters we've got amongst our group, the two of them.
Yeah, so they've seen a lot of changes from Clyde,
very much
where it's went from over the city to back over to Common Road, and then it's now Hamilton, and then they're obviously ending up in town, I think, eventually.
I think so.
Then went from the youth side at Clyde, went into the first team, and then Scott McKenzie, who worked at Ayr, his brother-in-law was the physio at Clyde, and I went to Ayr for 3 weeks, and I ended up there staying for 3 and a bit seasons. Okay,
can you get out? No. There's a bit like that.
It was like, once you're there, that's your punishment. No, so that was great. It was a great experience. I loved being there. And then...
Was that Ayr United?
Ayr United, yeah. So that was
big walking football contingent in Ayrshire as well.
Promotion, and then just as I was leaving, they got demoted back into second league. It was like first division, second division at the time. And I opened my clinic. I got the keys in February and opened in the May and finished opened a clinic in the March and finished the football season in the May, and that was me.
2010?
Yeah, 2010, yeah. And then I worked in the clinic for about a year and then went to St Mirren for...
You're not very loyal, are you, to the football team?
But then that's what happens in football. I don't really sit in the fence when it comes to football.
Come on.
No, I do, because...
You never worked for Partick Thistle, you've never reached the top of the rung yet.
No. So...
Thanks for agreeing.
No, I've got a lot of clients that are like directors in football clubs.
And football's a big family, isn't it, really? We know that at Pollock United here, that we've got, and we call them rivalries, but they're not. When it comes right down to it, we're all doing the same thing. Yeah. And without each other, there'd be no game.
And you do jump about in football. I think it's not really, unless you're at the kind of higher end scale, then you usually just tend to stay there. But mostly in football, people do generally jump about.
Yeah, they're working their way through through the system.
But that's me done with football clubs. I just like being based in, like, I open the clinic at 7 in the morning and I work long hours, so it's like 7 till sometimes 8 o'clock at night.
Okay. So thanks for coming over and giving us your time. So where do we start? I think you mentioned there the warm-up.
Yeah.
This is a bugbear of mine because we're supposed to do a warm-up, 15-minute warm-up before every session. And I would guess that very, very few people do that. Mm-hmm. Some of the ex-players do. Some guys that have played the game at a serious level are there a wee bit early on their own and they do their own wee thing, their own warm-up.
Because they know how important it is.
Yes. Even competitions, I have to coax them into warming up before they start playing in the competition. And I'm not even thinking from an injury perspective, I'm thinking from a competitive. You want to have your heart going before you start and be ready to get into the game. But they're warming up while they're playing. So what's the importance of a warm-up? If you tell them, maybe they're listening to you.
The importance of a warm-up is being warm. Mm-hmm. That's the end game, really.
Well, you're good at that.
So I would always say during winter you need a bit longer warm-up in the winter. In the summer months, 15 minutes is ample, especially they're older, they're going to need a lot more time to warm up. Considering like maybe children don't need as much because of the recovery time.
Yes.
So anybody over probably 50-year-old will definitely need around 15-minute warm-up time just to keep everything loose, prevent injury, and basically so that they can last the full game, because that's important. You don't want to go on and then feel as if like, I've got a wee pull and they come off and then your player's down. You don't want that. So
the chances of getting a wee pull or a wee strain are lessened by doing a warm-up.
Yes, yeah. If you don't do a warm-up, you're going to definitely have an injury. If you don't do warm-up and cool down is just as important as a warm-up.
Okay.
Because if you're not cooling down the muscles and you just jump in your car and you drive, say, like, for instance, John, 20 minutes to half an hour home, by the time you get out of the car, you're going to be all stiff.
Stiffened up,
and then it's like you've got even more chance of like pulling a hamstring. And it's not just a case of pulling your hamstring. Hamstrings come off your back as well. So if you pull a hamstring, you're going to probably end up having back issues at the same time.
Okay.
So it's quite important.
They're all connected up, all these bits and bobs, are they?
Yeah, because like especially in older people, they'll have more chance of like hamstring injuries, groin injuries, more core injuries as well, because their core's not as strong as what it was 20 years previously.
What do you mean by a core injury?
Core injury is like groin.
Okay.
So like Gilmer groin is a very common football injury in football, especially again in older people that are not warming up.
Right.
So it just means that the groin can be a wee bit longer to recover because you're not stretching out the muscles. You need to stretch at certain angles to get the correct muscle groups.
So that's doing your lunges and things, light lunges before the game?
Yeah, lunges, side
get
lunges.
Some movement,
like open up the gates, which is like bringing you up to your chest.
That's my favourite. Open the gate, shut the gate, all that stuff.
So like all
that's all real. Because they think I'm kidding on. You know what we end up doing? We end up doing the hokey cokey, you know, in and out. That's about it. Some of them think that's a warm up. Some of them stand at the radiator for 10 minutes before the game and they think that's a warm up. So the warm down, how does that differ from the warm up?
Well, warm up is usually kind of a lot of more movements, and then the cool down is usually more stretching.
Right.
So like you're stretching the hamstrings.
So if I was squatting or lunging before the game, it'd be a continuous movement.
Yes.
Whereas at the end of the game, I want to hold the pose.
Pose roughly between 8 and 10 seconds, and it's better done in pairs because it means that they're checking each other's done correctly. So for instance,
that's a good point.
You wanted to like pair up. And then, like, say they wanted to stretch their hamstrings, one of them lies on the ground.
The other one.
Yeah, holds.
Yes.
And then they do it vice versa. They just swap round.
Okay, that's good. If we're doing it together, it's always better. Excellent. So the warm-up, I've got a pal who used to be the strongest man in the world, strangely enough, Bobby Preston. And he, with the warm-up, he's an absolute stickler. The current strongest man in the world is a Scotsman.
Yes.
Tom, can't remember his second name. He's now going again. And Bobby messaged him last week to tell him that he's putting his wraps on wrong. You know, the knee wraps that they put on. He's wrapping them both to the same side when they should go to opposite sides to support your knee.
Yes.
So that's what Bobby's like. He's meticulous. But the warm-up, he says to me, you'll never see a dog or any animal jumping up and running off. they always stretch before they do it. When they wake up, they always have a
Have a
stretch.
yoga pose.
Even they know how to
Yeah,
warm
that's
up.
one of the reasons why it's called down dog.
Is it?
Yeah,
I
because
didn't
it's
know
a wee dog pose. Yeah.
that. I didn't know that. So we're warmed up and we're playing football. What about general maintenance then, before the game and after? But before we get any specifics into specific joints and problems, which I could go on all day about, what about looking after yourself generally as you get older? What changes as we get older, Claire?
Right, so looking after yourself will probably start at the beginning, because hydration, right?
Okay.
So before you go and do a 90-minute game or whatever amount of time you want to play the game for.
It's usually an hour for walking
So
football.
hydration.
Well, we go to Scottish Cups and Glasgow Cups and we're there all day. And the problem for most of us is that we're playing 15-minute games and then you're off for 15 minutes. You might be off for half an hour. Then you have 2 games back to back for half an hour. And then you're off for an hour.
Yeah, so
you go for lunch and come back and you want to play a semi-final. So
the thing with...
that doesn't affect every team, semi-finals and finals, obviously. That's a bollock thing.
So hydration is probably one of the key things I always go on about to clients, whether they're playing football, running marathons, anything at all. Hydration, electrolytes, especially again in older people, they're not going to absorb the same amount in their diet as what younger people would.
So we get less effective at absorbing things out of our food and whatever.
Because of the fact that you've got slow bowels and everything else, the majority of the thing...
I don't know who told you that. Don't know how you do that.
Should you take these things every day or only if you're exercising?
No, you can take them every day because you'll never overdose in electrolytes. You'll just always pee out what you don't need. It's better to keep them topped up than having to go a week without them and then having to try. So you'll always pee out what you don't need. So having like a little tablet, you can get them out of home bargains. You can get them widely available everywhere, like running shops, everything, all different flavours. So there's no excuse to say, "Oh, I don't like that one." It's a wee tablet you put in a glass of water.
Right.
So like you've got a bottle of water. Majority of people have bottles of water when they're working out.
Yeah.
So they put it in a wee glass of water, and it just tastes like diluting juice. It's the best way to describe it. It's not really salty. You get loads of flavours. Like for instance, now they've got like strawberry lime, pink grapefruit, mixed berry, orange. That's the kind of ones that's in like home bargains now. And there's Science and Sport. The other ones that I would recommend would be Zero, High Five. So there's no caffeine, there's no sweeteners, there's no anything artificial in them. They're all goodness, and it's everything that's great for the muscle. It fuels the muscle and keeps the muscle hydrated.
So how much a bottle is?
So they're about £4 for I think about 20 or 30 tablets.
That would do one a day?
One a day.
Only when you're exercising?
But you can take it every day if you feel as if you get the benefit of taking it. Then you can take them every day.
Okay.
For marathon runners or like people who are training, let's say up to a Scottish Cup or something, I would always say take one a day. If you're doing exercise and you're trying to keep fit, then take one a day, because it'll not do any harm to you.
And if you're working out, I know that some of the lads go to the gym and swimming and whatnot. If you're working out, are you using losing electrolytes when you're sweating?
The best way I explain it to people is to find out if you're losing a lot of salts is always like when you finish, lick your wrist or lick your top lip. If it's salty, then you're losing too much. So you need that to replace it, and that's what that little tablet does.
I'm so tempted to do that now because you've said that. Can't wait. No, I know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the pee test then?
The pee test, right. So there's about 6 different colours of the pee test, right?
Okay.
So your pee should never be super clear. If it's super clear, then that's not really a great sign.
Okay.
You want it to be like a little tinge of yellow, because that means that you're losing the electrolytes that you don't need.
Okay.
When it's dark, you're very dehydrated.
So you're losing them all?
Yeah. So you can put up a wee picture of the chart, and that'll...
You'll get us a wee picture.
Straw coloured, just a wee bit darker than straw colour, and that's the perfect colour you want on everybody.
We'll get that chart from you and put it up for the lads to see it. Good. That's a great tip. Thank you. Okay, so what about other supplements that we might take as we get older?
So other supplements...
Because there's so much getting sold to us. We're a very target demographic for sales. Everybody in the world's trying to sell us. You're over 50 now, you want a body like this, all this stuff on there. It's full of it. And it's got to the stage, certainly for me, that I don't look at any of it because it's just all sales nonsense.
Yeah, majority is all sales
Yeah.
stuff. You don't necessarily have to have anything over the counter, or you don't have to go and buy anything. Like, I would always say, like, maybe having a wee protein shake after like a long game, or like a massive
And a Glasgow Cup or Scottish Cup, a whole day.
because the protein again feeds the muscle and it keeps the muscle strong. But you don't have to have protein shakes. You can go and get a wee pack of chicken out of Asda or Tesco or whatever and eat that. It just does the exact same job.
Okay.
Like supplements like collagen. Now, you've got two different types of collagen, sports collagen and collagen. Now, I do prefer sports collagen for the athlete or anybody that's like kind of into fitness. It's like a soluble product that breaks down in your tissues, and it's like a connective tissue, so it keeps the connective tissue, which is like all the ligaments and the tendons and everything like that. It keeps everything strong in your joint. So it's the best way to describe it that I can explain would be little bits of plastic floating about your body, and it attaches on and keeps it stronger.
Okay.
Now, a lot of weightlifters take collagen. A lot of people who do weights take collagen because it keeps their knees strong. Knees, ankles.
And the joints.
Yeah,
all the joints.
The collagen is more like
And do we lose that as we get older?
Yes. That's elasticity of your skin. So you take collagen.
Stretchy bit.
Yeah, the stretchy bit. I can't even say it. The stretchy bit. So that keeps your skin strong, tight, looks better in appearance. It kind of fine lines, like smooths out the fine lines. But that's more a kind of cosmetic thing, collagen. Right. But sports collagen in athletes is the better one to take for connective tissues and joints.
Strong, keep the joints and tissues stronger.
So you've got the old-fashioned ones like glucosamine and cod liver oil, and then if you're taking things like that, but they're old. That's old medicine.
Yes.
You've got a lot more modern medicine things in the market that will help you better than old-fashioned kind of things.
Okay, because we're getting better at it, and we know more. We know how things work better, and we've got more experience. And sports changed as well. Sports is much more dynamic now. And probably people in their 60s and 70s like us didn't play football 20, 30 years ago. You know what I mean? This is interesting.
And instead it'd be like on an Astro Park and you just went and played about and
have a kick about with your grandkids.
Like that, and then that would be it.
But here we are on AstroTurf, chasing a ball about and shooting, trying to hit the ball as hard as you can sometimes, all that stuff.
And forgetting what age you are.
Correct. All the time. Do you know what's a real phenomenon is when folks start playing walking football, it's obvious that their brain isn't connected to their legs anymore in the respect that they think they're going faster and their legs aren't going that fast and they fall over because their legs can't keep up with how fast they want to be going. And another thing is they don't bring their hands up automatically anymore, and they end up hitting the face.
Everything's slower.
Everything's slower, including recovery.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed. If I get a wee niggle, if I get a wee strain, it takes longer to heal, which is very frustrating.
That is the downside of older age, unfortunately. You'll never recover anywhere near as quick as you did when you were younger. Yeah. I noticed
all the more reason to prevent injuries then.
I do know all the correct things.
The warm-ups and taking some supplements, staying hydrated.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic, really.
And resting as well, Resting is recovery days and things like that. So the best thing to do is not play 7 days in a row because you're not recovering, you're not giving yourself a day recovery.
I think it takes, I was going to say months, it takes years to learn that for walking footballers. So if we can pass that on to some of them, because Russell, a friend of mine, has been playing for longer than I can imagine, 5 or 6 years, and he was a footballer. But he's only recently said to me that he's now managing his football time. He wants to play every day. He wants to play every minute of every day like the rest of us. But he's now taking part in our dementia session, so he's not running about or anything. He's helping people, but he's still involved with football. He's in the Parkinson's session helping them. And he comes and plays maybe 2 or 3 times a week, max. Because if he does more, and he's got a hernia that he's waiting for an operation, which could happen. God knows when that's going to happen. And I think he's 73 or 74 years of age. So he's got to manage his time better now. And the lesson there for all of us is to do that, isn't it? To give yourself.
Yeah, and it's not until you're older and you realise actually it's time management is the probably key to staying fit as well.
Mhm.
Because when you're young, you just go, you think you're invincible, and you fire in and do what you want. And I say to people all the time when they come to the clinic, you need to have a rest day. You need to make sure that you're doing nothing. You have you're sitting on the couch vegging, even if you're eating and stuff. It's having that.
And if you're hydrating and maybe taking collagen or whatever, then you're actually building up so that you can play for longer. Will it make you any better?
Well, it should.
Another thing I've noticed is, I've said this to John, I think I said it to John recently, that when we get into our 60s and into mid-60s, the power goes from shooting. You can't shoot as well anymore. See the over 70s game? There's not a striker that can really hit the ball. If there is, he would run riot.
Yeah.
Because we lose that power from our legs. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the difference thing with John is, I don't suppose he'll mind talking about him.
Tough. He recommended you.
So when John
first
started with the football, yes, he had little wee injuries because he wasn't used to doing it. He wasn't going back, and he hadn't played for 20 years. So he was getting little niggles. So it first started off, I think, his back and his groin, and they were all connected.
Yes.
Like, for instance, like his groin, it was actually more kind of certain parts of his hamstring and his back, and once kind of we got into the routine of, right, that's it, and then he started playing on a regular basis, we were keeping on top of his injuries.
Issues as they come up. Because they do come up in stages, don't they?
Yeah.
It starts off with the tight hammy. One that we've had recently, and some of the boys have had real problems with this, I'm thinking of Frank in particular, was his calf. Tightened up on him completely, and he went to, I might have this wrong, forgive me Frank if I've got it wrong, but I think he went to the GP who diagnosed whatever and told him to get to the hospital in case it was a clot of some kind. Yeah. And I think it was a physio that told him it wasn't that and named it as whatever else it was.
Right.
But I've got quite a few of the lads complaining about tight calves before and after games.
So, one, tight calves, again, hydration, electrolytes.
Hydration's everything, isn't it?
It's the key, honestly, it's the key. Hydration, stretching the calves, warming up the calves. Yeah. That will keep them from going into spasm.
Yes.
And that's where you get the spasm and the cramps. So if your muscle is full of salt, sodium and potassium, less likely chance of it going into a cramp.
Right.
And then it won't harden up. So if you've got solid calves, it's because one, they're either lacking an electrolyte in it, which is the hydration part of it, or you're drinking too much alcohol.
Right.
Which is another key thing.
Well, that'll be Frank right enough. Sorry, Frank, I've no idea if Frank takes a drink.
Yeah, so that's alcohol is another part of injury.
Okay.
And usually you'll find that older people will drink.
What does the alcohol do?
More. It dehydrates.
Dehydrates you?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you going to say about older people?
Older people usually generally have more alcohol.
Right.
When they're sitting relaxing at night time, they'll maybe have a wee whiskey or a glass of wine with their dinner or something along the lines of that. Whereas younger people don't really have the time because of their
families
kids
and work and all
taking
this.
their kids to here, there and everywhere. But older people will just relax more at night time after their football, and they'll have a wee.
And that's not conducive to keeping fit and playing football for longevity.
There's nothing wrong with it. But as long as you're doing it,
countermanding that in some way.
You're having it in small amounts. You're not going home and drinking half a bottle of whiskey or half a bottle of wine, and then going out and playing football again the next night. You're going to be extremely dehydrated.
And then prone to injury.
Yeah, prone to injury.
And that's the point of it all.
Yeah. It's a vicious circle. If you're not following the hydration and the warming up
and
the cooling down, you're going to get injured at some point.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the recovery time
is
will be a lot longer. And then it'll be something else silly that will pick you up in another wee area because you've been compensating in another injury, and it just goes on like that.
Yeah.
A big vicious circle.
I think everybody listening to this will be able to relate to exactly what you've just said.
Yeah.
Whether they do anything about it, it's their problem, but they'll all be able to relate to it.
Maybe I need to come at football and crack my whip.
Well, there you go. You got trainers. How you get your trainers on? You any good?
Yeah.
You really need to be very good to get. We'll try and get a women's team running here at Park as well. Let's look at more specific things then, because that's a fantastic overview, Claire.
Yeah.
of what you're talking about, and fantastic advice in there. Probably the biggest thing I get is knees.
Knees.
Me included. I'm not waiting, I've just told them that it's time to get my knees done, to get the new knees.
Knees
But that'll be 2 or 3 years down the road.
Complex injury. Now, again, majority, if you can play football, it's nothing serious. Because if there's anything serious, like hasn't...
You've not seen me playing football.
Obviously you wouldn't be able to play 90
No.
minutes full on if you'd anything major. Majority of knee injuries can just be musculoskeletal, and what I mean by that is all the muscles round the knee are not doing their job. So you've got all your quad muscles going into your knee.
That's up here.
Yep. You've got muscles in your calf, it goes into behind the knee.
Okay.
You've got your hamstring that also goes in behind the knee.
Yep.
There's no point in me telling you technical terms because nobody will understand
right.
it. I'll say it's the most stupidest way that you'll understand.
Please
Everybody
do.
will understand
Please
it.
do. You've read me perfectly. You don't need to be laughing at it.
So, the best way to describe your muscles, they should be nice and soft and juicy like a grape.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
Over time,
You're taking this idiot thing too far.
over time they'll dry out like a raisin.
Right.
So like you'll see.
So that's every muscle in your body.
Anything. And you'll see the lines in the raisin. They're very dried out.
Yes.
Now to get them nice back, like a juicy grape, manipulate that little raisin between your finger and it will go softer again.
Yes.
So that's you getting blood flow and oxygen into the muscle. But obviously,
so is that massage then?
Yeah, so massage. So having hands-on work on your body, which would be like sports massage or remedial massage or anything like that, will encourage blood flow and oxygen in your muscles. So it reduces a hell of a amount of pain in your body and your musculoskeletal system. Again, if you've got to be pulling your back, majority of the time it'll be musculoskeletal. If you are doing walking football or if you're doing any kind of contact.
Explain musculoskeletal to me.
So that is basically all your muscles covering your skeletal system.
Right.
So you've got your body, which is like all your joints, and then every joint is covered by muscle
make them move.
To make them move. And then you've got your ligaments,
and they're all connected.
Your tendons. So everything's connected. But anything minor is usually kind of muscular.
Okay. So if you were getting a massage, what would you be talking? Your legs primarily then for footballers?
Yeah, for footballers it's mostly legs. Then it goes into the glutes. The glutes are one of the biggest muscles, is the biggest muscle in the body. So your glutes do a lot of things. That gives you like kind of kick.
Is that your buttocks?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like when you're sitting down, standing up, anything like that. So you're using your glute muscle. So again, you would work the glutes too because when you go to kick.
For massage?
For massage.
Right. To get them back from being dried out prunes.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So sports massage, is that a thing then? That's not just everywhere you would. That's obviously what you do at the clinic.
Yes.
How long would a sports massage?
You can go from 30 minutes, 45, 60 minutes.
What would you recommend?
So probably first visit, you're probably talking about a 45-minute appointment to get all the legs done.
Yeah.
You can go into an hour and get a bit of the back done. Usually the more you come, that time frame goes down. So you can get more area covered.
And what would you talk about? Once a week or once a month?
No, I would say to people, don't get a regular routine because then the body thrives it. After you start getting it, like for instance, John, he's into a regular routine, so when he gets something, he feels as if he needs a rub straight away because he's used to it.
Right.
Whereas you're better just going, you feel a bit tight, fancy rub. That's the best way to look at it.
Okay.
Don't program yourself into it, or don't program it in for every month or every 6 weeks or anything. Just come and go as you please.
I'm going to ask you a question here. The suspicion will be that we know the answer you'll give because you're a physio who does that for a living and you're looking for clients. But it's trying to look at it impartially, you've got me thinking here that anybody, certainly over the age of 60, but probably 50 if they've got the time, who wants to play walking football 2 or 3 times a week or more and get the most out of it, be able to participate fully and not affect their lifestyle. Because you said to me, if you can play, then there's not much wrong with your knees. Fiona, who's here, would dispute that and say, if I play, I'm crippled for 2 or 3 days afterwards.
So
if we're going on holiday, I abstain for 3 weeks beforehand so that we can go walking on holiday.
Yeah,
Because
it's
if
not
I
even
play,
just the knees, it's affecting the whole person. It's
Uh-huh.
just shattered. It just drains all the energy.
because I can't move anymore, my knees are really sore and tight. I can't
You can't.
stand up.
So then that comes around to more, again, musculoskeletal, because if it's only lasting 2 or 3 days, the muscles are starting to loosen off after 2 or 3
Yes,
days,
yes,
and then the pain goes away, so you're starting to feel better.
Yeah.
Whereas if you got a rub in your legs, you'd only probably
We
be
bring
a
that
day
forward.
recovery,
yes.
and then you'd not have to wait the 2 or 3 days, and it wouldn't be.
So what I was going to say was that everybody should have a physio.
Yeah.
That they maybe
Or
go
sports
to, if it's once
therapist
a
or-
year,
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
once every 6
Yeah.
months, whatever you can afford to do. It's something that will prolong your playing career to
Yeah.
play walking football, and it will minimise the effect that sport has on your body
Yeah.
day to day.
And also keep you healthy, because if you're keeping active, then it's obviously, it helps a lot of depression, mental health.
Well,
You've got all of that as well on top of.
because we expound all the benefits of walking football, which are the social side of it,
Yeah.
and getting out and about and making new friends, etc., etc. All of that is prolonged if you look after the machine in the first place.
Of course.
So having a physio that you can phone up now and again or email and say, this is what's going on.
Yeah. Even getting advice, like for instance, say one of the players had done something on a Wednesday night and they phoned me at the clinic on the Thursday and saying, right, Claire, I've done this, what can I do? Right, well, this is how, say they pulled a hamstring. Right, we'll lie on the floor, stretch your hamstring and keep doing it throughout the day.
Right.
You could maybe move their back or something along the lines of that. Then I would say, right, do this, do that.
Yes.
And
A
then do
few
it for
simple
24
exercises.
hours, and then hopefully you'll be better.
It makes your recovery time. And then you remind them about the electrolytes. And, yeah. Okay, you've sold me anyway, that's for sure. But it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Probably not just for walking football, but for everybody.
For every sport there is,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. But I think with walking football is you need to think about the age range of the players. So
Yes.
it's all right if you've got somebody like 50 and they're still fit and they're still looking after themselves, but when you move into the kind of 60 bracket,
Like John,
like
who doesn't know he's in the 60 bracket
John
yet.
he's 40, and then like going up even into 65,
Yes.
your recovery is not going to be anywhere near as good as what it is when you're 60,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to the 70
Yeah.
bracket, then again you're not going to be anywhere
I
near
think
as good as
that's where the
what
big
you are.
changes are, isn't
Yeah.
it? I think from 60 to 70 is the biggest changes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 63, but I can feel that already, that I'm having to start thinking about these things much more
Just the
seriously.
recovery alone is going to be, sometimes can be double as what you would be when you were 60.
Okay. What's good about this and why I know that we're on the right track is because I had questions in my head to ask you about hip replacements. Some of the boys have had hip replacements and now back playing football or are scheduled to have them. And they'll get a physio programme, hopefully from the NHS when these things happen. The knees I've spoken to you about, all the pulls, back problems, people with sore backs. But pretty much, and I'll give you a chance to deny this in a minute, but the stuff we've talked about already is kind of a holistic approach for everything.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter what the injury is. Hydrate, collagen will help, the supplements will help.
If you didn't have like people like me, there's still loads of things on the market and that's free that you can do without having to pay a fortune. And I don't think I'm not expensive in my clinic.
Okay.
For instance, my appointments are £30 for half an hour,
Right.
which isn't that
No,
bad.
that's not.
Considering
Because we live in Gifford.
considering in town you're talking it's £50 for half an hour, you
Yeah.
know. But I don't make it as in, my business isn't about money, it's about getting you better.
Yes.
So, and that's one I would probably say 95% of my clients are all word of mouth.
Right.
I don't advertise anywhere.
Okay.
Again, all my business comes off other people.
Okay.
And I get them all from all over.
Yeah.
Anywhere they come from. So
I think the really important thing for us here is that it's when you get that injury, lift the phone right
straight
away.
away.
Yes.
And get the right correct advice.
Yes.
Now, having the correct advice doesn't cost you a penny. You can phone and MD can phone me at any time and I will always give them the best possible advice without seeing them, because you want people to be better. You don't want people to be in pain or...
And if you give them good advice and it helps them, they'll remember who gave them the good advice, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is important. You don't want to con people out and giving you money either when you don't have to take money off people.
Mhm.
Because there is plenty of things you can do over the phone and advise them what things, like when we were talking about like cold therapy. Like cold therapy is like a major thing. Not so much, I wouldn't really recommend an 80-year-old jump into a cold bath, to be honest with you, because
We'll get Alex to try it. He's 81 now. We'll get him to try it and see how it works out. And then we know whether to recommend it or not.
Yeah, it's just whether somebody's in the room with him, getting him in and out of the cold bath. Just make sure he's got shorts on.
So who would you recommend?
Like cold therapy is really good. So like there's loads of different ways that you can do cold therapy.
Cold therapy.
Cold therapy.
Is that the Andy Murray stuff?
Yeah, so like the ice baths and going into baths. And then you can also get the other scale if you don't like cold, because a lot of people don't like being in cold baths. I certainly don't. I love heat. So yeah. So I would like to go for like an Epsom salt bath. So you run a hot bath, put some Epsom salts into it. Again, Epsom salts is made up salt, sodium, potassium and magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
Magnesium's another great.
And did they get ingested through your skin?
Yeah, so they absorb through your skin.
Okay.
And what you do is like fill a nice hot bath, Epsom salts and have a glass of cold water. You're staying hydrated because obviously the salt can dehydrate you too.
Yeah.
But you're taking some water. It's good salts, magnesium though. It's not a bad salt.
Okay.
Like table salt is bad salt.
Sodium.
Mediterranean salt is a good salt. So you want to add a Mediterranean salt in your diet rather than table salt.
Okay.
It's two different kind of salts.
Okay.
One causes more heart problems than the other.
So that causes sodium?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to like Epsom salt bath. So that you would stay in it until you feel as if like kind of the water's getting that cold. Means that all the salts are absorbed into the muscle.
Right. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
Because that sounds so old fashioned, Epsom salts, doesn't it?
Epsom salt,
Something my granny would have done.
An old
But that's all they had then.
It's an old boxing thing. That's what it predominantly was focused on years ago, was boxing, to sweat the boxers so the body
to get the weight off,
yes,
to make
go
the
for
weight.
saunas and stuff, and then they'd get in an Epsom salt bath to stay hydrated, to take all the.
Yeah, that's something every day. I learned a lot today.
It also was used in horse racing years and years ago as well to make.
Used where? Sorry.
Horse racing.
Right.
To make
right.
horses poo.
Before the race. Right. That's clever. Go faster. Get the weight off. And is that going to happen to us as well then? No. Is that something we need to watch out for? No. The Epsom salts bath?
No.
No hassle there?
No hassle there.
Okay, so we've got the skeletal, the muscular. Maybe this is something that that's out with your field, and you'll know a lot about it, but whether you want to talk about it or not, is we've got a lot of people that have had or heart problems. We get referred, like me, for instance. I had a heart attack 5 years ago and got a stent put in. And walking foot, that's why I got introduced to walking football as part of my rehab. And here we are now. So is there anything in particular that we should think about?
I think heart stuff is all down to hereditary. I don't know if your previous in your family, if anybody else has had heart issues.
Probably, yeah.
So a majority of people, I think, what I've came across in work is it's either their family have had heart attacks or like their dad and they've had heart attacks. So you could be as fit as anything but still have a heart attack.
Yes.
You could be overweight and have a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
The diet, I suppose, does help, and staying fit is always better than being a couch potato. I definitely would recommend staying a bit more on the fitter side than. You
mentioned weight there. Someone told me, I'm guessing at the figures now, but I think for every pound that you're overweight, or for every pound that you have, you put 14 pounds of stress on your joints, on your knees in particular. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that's about, I think.
So 4 pounds?
I think it's round about that kind of.
Right.
4 pounds.
So
that's about right.
So it's always a good thing to keep your weight in check anyway. Yeah. Pretty obvious.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Is there anything else, Claire, that I could go on all day about the specific injuries that guys have got, but that's their problem. They need to get the right advice for individuals.
I think with any age over 50, as long as you're staying hydrated by taking the electrolytes. Now there's 2 forms you can buy. You can buy the little sachets, and everybody's seen these. They've probably given them to their kids over time, which is diolorite.
Right,
when the
yes.
kids are sick and things like that,
Yeah.
that's an electrolyte. That's
Right.
what feeds the body when you've been sick or had diarrhea.
Okay,
things
it
like that.
replaces what you've just lost.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So the tablets are the exact same.
Right.
And collagen to keep your joints
It's
strong.
funny we know to take that when we've been sick or had diarrhea or something, but we don't think
We
to
take
take
it
it.
already with us all the time.
Yeah, just in
case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
And then magnesium. So magnesium keeps the muscles nice and relaxed, and that's probably the only really ones. The electrolytes, the collagen and the magnesium, for anybody over 50, if they want to play walking football and they want to stay nice, strong and relaxed, it's probably the best thing that.
And that'll prolong the time playing.
Yeah.
They'll spend less time injured and they'll be able to play for longer and stay fitter and get all the benefits of walking football or whatever their sport is for longer.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, if we've done that today, that's a great job we've done, Claire. Thanks very much. What's your business called again?
Sports Injury Clinic.
In Collagen.
Yeah.
And we'll get the details of it and we'll get them up here for the boys as well. They can, on their own back, they can give you a wee call.
Oh no, yeah, they can give me a call and just tell me they're part of the football team and they can get anything free advice at any time they want. It's open 6 days a week. So.
Thanks very much. Tuesday, your day off?
Tuesday's my day off, yes. Usually, sometimes.